Well, hello and welcome to the Car Care Nut channel. Livestream, how you guys doing? It feels like it's been a while. It's been, 2 weeks since the last live stream. Took a week off. It was in a beautiful time with the family. We went out. We did spend some time together, kind of disconnected from the world. That was really good, and we needed that. And the next one's scheduled in 3 weeks. So before we start, we always do this, so let's just get right through it. um, from now on, the live stream is set every Saturday at 7 p.m. for 3 weeks, then 1 week off. I will always let you know at the end of the live stream, or maybe even at the beginning, that the next week is going to be the fourth one where we won't be having a live stream. I will also start posting it early, so those who cannot find it will have time to look around and set the reminder on it. You can invite your friends. You can, all the whole purpose of this channel is to help you guys. It's hard for me to keep up with everything as much as I like to quit my day job and just sit down and helping you guys with everything you need, but it's not possible to do that. So emails and social media becoming almost impossible with them pouring in. I'm trying, but it's just becoming really difficult. So the live stream is the best way. I can't also get to all the questions in the live stream, but hey, we can try, and by doing it three weeks in a row, we'll get you guys covered for whatever you need that I can help you with. Having said that, last live stream at the end, I said something, but then I didn't talk about it. I told you guys that I was going to talk about the upcoming official Car Carenut channel car. It's a Toyota. I was going to talk about it, but then we kind of ended the live stream, and then I realized, wait, I didn't talk about it. So there is a car coming. I will not tell you what it is. It's going to be a surprise for you all. When I get that car, which it will be built somewhere in this continent on September 22nd of 2021. We just got the final confirmation. Hopefully that remains with everything crazy that's been going on. When it comes up, I'm going to start posting some sneak peeks so you guys can guess it. Maybe we'll run a little contest who can guess it right. And then when it hits 1,000 miles and I do the brake and oil change, we'll film that and I'll reveal to you the whole process from when it came off the truck all the way to that 1,000 miles and everything I do to my new cars when I get them. Maybe you'll pick up some ideas. Maybe you have some ideas for me. Hey, you guys have been just a melting pot of knowledge and experience. I'm a professional technician, but you guys are car owners, and some of you are very knowledgeable, and I really appreciate that. And I always learn from you as well. Having said that, let's dig into the questions, and at the end, we'll talk about a few things as well. Hopefully, I won't forget to talk about a few things at the end like last time. Starting with Albedo, does every Toyota dealership requires? Oh, sorry. Let's rephrase it. Let's start from the beginning. Does every Toyota requires each dealer to have a Toyota Master Diagnostic Technician? And how many masters are on staff? Do you go to Japan for training? So they do not require dealerships to have a Master Diagnostic Technician. In Toyota's eyes, having a master or a Master Diagnostic Technician is sufficient, either or. And they don't really require dealers to have a specific amount. They want a kind of a spread of all the levels, which are certified. Sorry, there's maintenance below certified. They don't really do much. Certified, which is the entry level, and then expert, master diagnostic technician. Um, I will make a video to dive into this one day, but as far as how many masters do we have, it's not, some dealers will have 3 masters and 20 certified experts. Obviously, certified experts are usually paid less, so dealerships don't want to have 15, 20 masters that are lingering around for all this high pay doing small jobs. But the dealership I work at is actually it's renowned in the nation, in the US, as one of the highest dealership that has the highest number of masters and master diagnostic technicians. We're actually almost 90% of technicians are masters and MDTs. By MDT is the master diagnostic technician. It's one of the highest, and Toyota always tells the dealership, it's like, you have all these extremely high paid guys. That is not good business wise, because you don't need a MDT to do just brakes and maintenance. That, business wise, that doesn't make sense. You want your elite guys to only do diagnostic and heavy work, and everybody else do the simple stuff, not to be overqualified. But that's how it is with the dealership where I work. So as far as training, we do not go to Japan. I can test that, and I will tell Toyota that 100% of Toyota owners say that we should be sent to Japan for training. I wouldn't object to that, but no, every region. So Toyota is divided into regions. Every region, like the Chicago region, there's a lot of dealerships, not only in Chicago area or Illinois. It actually expands to other states around. But the Chicago region, the training center is a special facility that I don't know if I should share the location. I don't know if that's public information. It's located right off I-88 in Aurora, in Sequoia Drive, something. But I don't want to share the location. But that's where all the training happens. That's actually the regional headquarters for Toyota. So that's where we go for training. So I will have a hard time reading that name, Cali Melino. Probably read it wrong, but I bought a 2021 RAV4 XLE Premium Hybrid. Are you recommending the 1K mile oil change? I'm hearing different things. I made an appointment for next week. So let's talk about this, because I've actually seen another question here for a Prius Prime. It's got 2,700 miles. Dealership says first oil change shouldn't be until 5,000, but I remember one of your videos saying at 1,000. So let's talk about the brake and oil change real quick. It is not required. You're not going to find it in the book. Personally, and my recommendation from experience is that if you can, consider a brake and oil change at between 1,000, even up to 1,500 miles is okay. It's not a must. You mustn't do. It doesn't have to be an absolute law that you do this, but it is highly recommended. Many people will tell you, well, they have a special brake and oil. They don't. Many people will tell you, which those people are right, but hear me out here. There is the break-in, the assembly lube that they use, that you want that to stay in the oil for a certain amount of time. But here's the other school of thought that many people just disregard. The official break-in period on the car ends at anywhere from 500 to 1,000 miles, depends on the model. So at that point, your engine is broken in. It's done. Everything is set. The rings are seated. Everything is good. So if you do an oil change, all you're doing is getting any contaminants out from production. Remember, as clean as production, an engine is an engine. It's going to have metal shavings, it's going to have debris, it's going to have a little bit of silicone from the sealer. That is a must. There's no way around it. You potentially want to consider taking that out at 1,000 miles to 1,500. It's advisable. It's not required. However, 5,000 mile services is very required and very highly recommended. And especially, it is required if you drive certain driving conditions. So when you go to the dealership, this is where this becomes a problem. And I'm noticing a lot of my viewers. So let's talk about this for a bit. Sorry, everybody else. We're going to hog the live stream for a few minutes here. Talk about this. This is important. When you go to the dealership, don't go and ask, oh, I want a brake and oil change. I want a 5,000 mile oil change. You just walk in the door. I want an oil change. I am paying for it, because you have to understand that the Toyota Care program, if you're in certain areas that has it, will only cover you for 10,000 mile oil changes. They will not pay for the 5,000 mile oil change or the 1,000 mile oil change. If you want to do that, you got to pay for it. So all you do is don't argue with the dealership, because they're only going to want to follow the norm and not appear like they know everything, which most of them really, they're not going to get into that. Just walk in the dealership. Hi, I'm here for an oil change. That's it. How much is an oil change? It's 40, whatever the case may be. Okay, I'll wait for it, or I'll be back, or whatever the case may be. Don't go into the reasoning. If you are convinced, you're following my advice here, or advice of many, not just me, do it and don't argue it with the dealership. When the 10,000 mile service comes up, you're going to get an automatic oil change, and then the same at 20. In the 25,000 mile service, tell them I also would like an oil change. If the dealership argues, you just tell them, I am following the manufacturer recommendation. My driving falls under severe or special driving conditions. If they object that, you just look at them and tell them, do you even know what you're talking about? Because it is in the owner's manual. Have a nice day. The end of that. Don't argue with the dealership. Their job is to do what you want, as long as it's not, you're not asking them to do, I don't know, a brake job on one side only of the car. You're not asking them for something unreasonable. You just want an oil change. They should get you in and out, and life's good. You don't need to be wasting your breath at that. Having said that, this is one of the best comments that comes up. Lala G, I hope you are doing well. Thank you for joining the live stream. Do it yourself. Nobody will take care of your car like you do because you are the one paying for it. If you are able, mechanically, if you need some help, I have a lot of videos. We have these live streams, wherever you need. I'll help you. Many of the other viewers will help you. Do it yourself is the best thing. You cannot possibly, an oil change is the most basic service, but you also need to be careful. Follow my videos, look at other videos. The more you watch, the more you learn, the better equipped you are to do any job. So doing it yourself is actually the best thing. If you do it right and you know what you're doing, you're getting the right oil and the right parts. Having said that, let's move on to the next question. John Berdad says, I have a 2010 RAV4 with a 2ARFE engine front wheel drive with 105,000 miles. Do you think it's a good idea to change the spark plugs and the spark plug coils? So at this point, your car is 11 years old. You're very close to that 120,000 miles. You could replace the plugs now. You can wait to 120. The only reason they tell you, try not to wait over 10 years, because if you're, say, at 50,000 miles, it's going to be a while until you get to 120. So at 10 years, around 10 years, you're taking the plugs not because they're worn, but because you don't want them seizing in there. So I would replace the spark plug at your earliest convenience. No rush here. But the spark plug coils, I wouldn't. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. And that's like the easiest coil to replace on that four-cylinder. If it ever goes down the road, just swap only the affected coil. Don't replace all four. There's no need. And actually, that engine is not very notorious to chew up through ignition coils. I wouldn't replace them. Devnesh Prasad. I have a Toyota Prius 1.8 2010 with radar cruise. I have replaced the front radar sensor and driving support ECU. My car is not able to get in radar ready mode on. You will need to calibrate that sensor. That's the first thing. It needs to be adjusted, calibrated, so everything will start communicating together. To do that, you're going to need a very capable scan tool. Anthony Elaine, 2GRFE with 6-speed transmission. Car's got 90,000 miles. Should I do the transmission oil change? Never been done before. Plus why I'm worried to do it. Rumors going around slip after change. I don't think at 90,000 miles, we did include the year. If this is something over 10 years old, I would leave it alone. If this is something around 10 years old or less, I think you're good. Just do a single drain and fill and you're good to go. Wesley Wilkinson, what is the purpose of the clutch accumulator on my 2021 manual Tacoma? So they did that to help those that don't know how to drive manual. Toyota knows that the manual transmissions are going away, and they know that most people don't know how to drive manual anymore. Before, everybody learned how to drive car and manual. Now nobody does that. We actually just hired a not me, but at the dealership where I work, hired a junior mechanic who does not know how to drive manual. That is very interesting for a mechanic not to know how to drive manual, but it's okay. If you never need it, you never need it. I understand the times we live in, but that is to help the clutch operation be very smooth. When you lift off too quick, it'll actually slowly back off the pressure, so you're not, the truck wouldn't just jump forward and you kill it. It'll make killing it very difficult. A lot of people actually dislike that. They want that quick release of the clutch, the mechanical feel of the clutch, but that's really all it does. Art Vendelay, 95 Land Cruiser, driver's door lock cylinder is very worn. Can I swap over the cylinder from the passenger door? Usually no, and honestly, I don't have that answer right off the top of my head, but usually no, because the drivers are, we're talking about an older one. You might be able to try it, but I do not have a direct answer. I really haven't tried it, but usually you cannot. If you get a new door lock cylinders for the drivers, you can have a locksmith rekey it so you can use the same keys, and now you don't have one different key for one door and different keys. That's very common. It's not really something expensive. Any good locksmith can be able to do that, and that's basically what locksmiths do. They're very good at it. Mike Gamble, I have a 2013 Highlander, and the TPMS light came on twice in the past year. Both times it was on the highway and raining pretty hard. So the only thing I would check is your tires overinflated way too much, like they're 55 psi, where at highway speeds they're getting too high where they're reaching past what the sensor can read, or are they barely on the line of being low? Check the tire pressure. But as far as them coming on twice on the highway, could be raining pretty hard, but it also could be interference. You're passing underneath a big pole or something that is jamming the signal for the TPMS sensor, where it loses signal for a bit, then it comes back. But as long as the light's not continuously flashing afterwards, you're good. This system can be a little on the sensitive side. Another one from Anthony Elaine, 2007 Toyota V6 2GR front engine mount. Why does it have a line in it? Plus, my mechanic said it needs changing. What are the symptoms for bad front engine mount? So I don't know what he means by line. Maybe a crack, a small crack. Look, folks, these are rubber mounts. This is a 14-year-old car. Rubber is going to have a few cracks on it, but that doesn't mean it's bad. The main thing with engine mounts is vibration, major vibration when the engine is in idle or you burst, you're in drive and stop. You're going to feel a lot of vibration that is abnormal. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. If you don't have vibration, if you accelerate hard and you don't feel like a big clunk, don't replace them. Many mechanics will be like, "Oh yeah, I see a little crack there. Let's go and replace that." Yeah, what's going on there, buddy? The mortgage is due? No. If the mount's not, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Yeah, it might look old, but guess what? It's 14 years old. It's gonna look old, but it ain't broken. When it breaks in the next 10, 15 years, then we'll deal with it. Just because there's a crack on the mount doesn't mean it's bad. If there is physical movement, you can brake torque the car, which is something you got to be very careful if you're doing it at home. Foot on the brake hard, car and drive, and then press the gas pedal and let it go, while someone is very carefully watching the mounts. If the mounts they're going to move, but if they're all of a sudden doing this jump, that means they're separated inside and you need new mounts. Otherwise, it ain't broke, don't fix it. Jeremy, you finally made it to one of these live streams, folks. Huge shout out to Jeremy. He's a very good friend and actually a neighbor around here in my neighborhood. And he volunteered his forerunner for the transmission fluid replacement on trucks video. So huge shout out to Jeremy. Thank you for joining us, brother. So Devonish, you're talking about the auto cruise control. Please leave a comment on this video or any of the videos with that code. I need to look it up because these codes, I don't have them memorized. So Limit GTX, I purchased a RAV4 in Trinidad with 2.0 M20A engine and a CVT transmission. Is there any way for me to know if it has direct shift CVT or if it uses an older normal CVT? Look on the sticker that has the VIN and the information of the car. Find me the name of the transmission. It's usually going to start with a K. I want to say this K313. Don't quote me on that. But find me that and leave a comment, and I'll let you know if it's direct shift or regular. T Clark 5. Any new info on the BZ Toyota electric models? You guys started the rant. I didn't want to talk about this, but I will now. Folks, you recently saw on the news that Toyota is cutting their production 40%, whatever, for the month of September. It was just announced. We knew about this. I personally knew about this since April. It was initially thought to be around October, but now it got pulled to September. There is a conflict of interest here where Toyota releases internal information. I can't just go online and say, "Oh, listen," just to make views and buzz. I will not betray Toyota's trust. I will not betray my employer's trust as well. Certain things I can say, certain things I cannot. That is the same on new models like the below zero Toyota electric car. Yes, we do know a little bit of information about it, but I can't share it. Not because I will be in trouble and I'll get fired and all. No, nobody cares. But out of respect for Toyota, I'm not a journalist. You all know that. I have your best interest at heart. I am just a humble mechanic that just gives you advice and helps you with whatever you need. I cannot share that out of respect. There has to be respect in the world for certain things that are word of mouth between trusted employees. The BZ will come out when it comes out, and we will have significant amount of information on it. And more importantly, which I have a subscriber actually unsubscribed from the channel, according to him, because I do not have information on the 2022 Tundra. I know a lot of information about the Tundra, confirmed information. However, again, for the same reason, I cannot just go and betray their trust. They're These people are working tirelessly day and night to prepare the Tundra, to make it a surprise, to push their new product, which is significant in my opinion. I can't just betray their trust because they trusted me with information that I was not supposed to share. So, out of that respect, you will notice that I don't talk about new models until they come out. I hope you guys can appreciate and understand that, because that's I respect Toyota. I respect what they do, and I will give them their space to do what they need to do. Once the information becomes public, you will hear a lot more details on it. But until then, mum's the word for me. You will find out about that as time passes, as more information comes out. Dale R. I have a 2006 Sienna Limited, which has developed a slow power steering fluid leak at the rack and pinion. It steers well. Must it be fixed? If it is a small leak, as in you're having to add fluid every, I don't know, month, 2, 3 weeks, I wouldn't consider that a big leak. But if you're having to add every single day, then yes, it needs to be addressed. You could either replace the seal on the rack and pinion, not exactly recommended because usually it fails, or you could just replace the rack and pinion and be done. Are you pressed with time? You're not. Until you start seeing a drip leak, don't worry about it, but you gotta keep an eye on it, because you let that fluid go low. Now you went from needing a power steering fluid, power steering rack and pinion, to needing a pump, and now it's kind of starts snowballing. So you gotta keep an eye on it. If it gets tiring and you don't have the time, then just replace it and be done with it. But you have time. As long as it's not a large leak, you have time. So Anthony, on the VVTi issue on the 2GRFE, Toyota knew about it. It was like a plague on them. Why didn't they recall the vehicles for the 1-2 second rattle startup? I'm with you on that one. They did change the design, but they didn't recall it because it is not exactly a safety hazard. I mean, it rattles, and after 10 years, it might cause issues. So I really can't go into their decisions, why they decided what they decided, but I'm with you. I think there should have been some kind of program to help, because that's a big repair. Abraham Mateo, I own a 2019 Tacoma TRD off-road, and I was wondering if you could tell me, what do you recommend for oils? For engine oil, both front and rear differential oil and transmission oil. For the engine oil, you can use Mobil 1, you can use any oil you'd like. But personally, I will use Toyota oil. Many people will tell me I'm an idiot for doing that, but you know what? Specially formulated for Toyota engines is the word. And you know what? If you find it from a good source, a good dealership that is not trying to rob everybody, you can actually get it for the same or less money as the average oil you'll find in the supermarket or anywhere else. So I would use Toyota oil. Consider it, guys. It's the best oil for this engine. That's Many people will say otherwise, but I trust the people that made the engine in this case. This is the oil they approved for it, so why not use it? For the differentials, the front and rear, unfortunately, the same does not apply to this one, because some of these differential fluids from the label Toyota, they're ridiculous. They're $80 a quart. I don't think that's reasonable. So you can use Mobil 1. We've been using it. It really hasn't given us any issues. 80-90, even 75-80 or 75-90, I don't recall exactly. Go ahead with that. Transmission oil, absolutely OEM. There's no question about that. WS fluid, you will not have issues at all. Star Mat, my Highlander XSC, 3 months old now. Winter is coming and don't want my brake calipers get rust. Does painting the brake calipers affects the warranty? It does not, as long as it is done well. I see so many people take the wheel off and just paint the caliper. You got overspray on the pads, you got overspray on the rotor, you got overspray all over the place. Don't do that. Take the caliper off. Don't disconnect the line off of it, but take it off, mask everything, mask the piston, then paint the caliper. Then while that thing is drying on the side, take the pad holder, mask everything where the pad goes, where it moves, do it clean, not what's easy. This is the problem that people get into. They want to do things right, but they want to also do it easy. There's no such thing. The right way is the right way. The shortcut way is not always the good way. So if you take your time and you do it right and you painted it, you didn't paint over the piston, you didn't paint over the pads and the rotors, you should have no problems with warranty. I wouldn't consider it as a problem when I see your car come in the shop and I see him painted and the job well done. I'm actually gonna give you a thumbs up. That's someone who cares, who did the job right. So, Amir Yusuf, Toyota dealership in Saudi Arabia, now introducing 0W20 oil specifically for hybrids. My car is a 2018 Camry hybrid. They put 10W40 up until now. Wow. Yes, please change. That is excessive. 10W40. I know the temperatures are very high over there, but still, we got Arizona over here, and definitely they don't put 10W40 over here. That's a little too high. You're definitely going to notice a difference in the gas mileage. So, Joel Ferrer, I'm thinking about getting a beater car, a 2004 Toyota Corolla. Is there anything wrong with that generation? I think it's the ninth generation. Is it reliable? Can it go 300,000 miles? That's the one, actually, the 2003 to 2008 Corolla. I don't know what generation it is. Stop counting. Uh, that is one of the best Corollas ever made, in my opinion, of the old ones. The one before it was terrible. The one after it it was okay, but it was not the same. That is one of the best generations. One thing kills that generation, actually, two, if I'm not lying. The first one is rust. If this is a rusty bucket, it's not good. It ain't gonna last. Everything will start falling apart. The second one is the engines, the maintenance. It seems like it's a theme. Every good car that lasts, people maintain it less and less. Guys, it's a good car. It's Toyota. I don't have to do nothing. Just drive it till the wheel falls off, and hopefully all of my teeth will fall off before that. That's not the case. When you have a reliable car, you gotta maintain it so it continues to be reliable. Otherwise, all these high quality parts will cost you a fortune to maintain, to replace or repair. But if you find one, make sure it has good service history. These were notorious to burn oil, especially 03, 04, when they're not maintained. And the 05 to 08 also, but it seems like lesser degree. People kind of learned. I don't know what's the deal. But 03, 04, they burn a lot of oil if they're not maintained. So you got to watch out. Otherwise, you can get 300,000 miles out of these cars with good maintenance. NiCat, I have a 2008 Highlander with the original rubber oil cooler lines, VVTi line. They have both lasted 155,000 miles in the hot desert Southwest. Are they actually manufactured correctly or they're bad? You're lucky because, and I wouldn't push that luck much further. Not with the line in the back, the VVTi line that goes from the back valve cover all the way behind. That one got updated, so that one is better. But the front one, the oil cooler line, I would replace that because at any moment now, and especially now that you said this, if it ruptures, it's going to kill the engine if you don't notice it and shut it off in time. I would get that fixed, replaced, honestly, and then at a later time, consider doing the back one, especially if this mile, especially with the high heat. You're not going to regret it because now you have 100% peace of mind. Nothing's going to happen. Hamoud Asi, is the price premium for the Land Cruiser worth it over the Sequoia in terms of longevity? Don't plan to own lots of off-roading, and the Sequoia is 20,000 less. Honestly, no. That's the truth. That's the painful truth. If you're not going to be doing off-roading and you don't want that ultra premium badge and few better made things, mainly cosmetics and mainly off-road stuff. The Sequoia will be the same. Many people will say, well, I don't want the Sequoia, it's not made in Japan, this whole mess. They're the same. They have the same engine. The frame is different, but if you're not off-roading, you're just doing it as a family hauler, you're not going to really see any difference other than you're $20,000 richer. That's the truth. I wouldn't spend the money on the Land Cruiser unless you specifically want the Land Cruiser and you're a diehard fan, and it doesn't matter. You cannot have a Sequoia. It needs to be a Land Cruiser. If you're just looking for a family hauler, go with the Sequoia. No Scott, my 2012 2AR FE engine has a low idle problem. When the engine is cold, stoplights, it shakes and dips below 500 RPM. Installed on me. A clean throttle body, mass airflow, new spark plugs, air filter still does it. Is this thing burning oil? That's the thing. We actually recently had one. I don't remember if it was a Camry or RAV4. It had low compression on one of the cylinders until it warms up. That's some of these are starting to show up with carbon buildup because of the oil consumption, excessive, something crazy. You're gonna see this, and actually, I tore an engine apart recently of a 2AR, 215 or 16 Camry with 200,000 miles. Tore the engine apart. That video is coming up. It's a picture video, but I will go in the narrative over everything, and you'll see how crazy the carbon buildup. Do send a scope. Is this engine burning oil? That's another question I need to ask you, because otherwise, unless you have a small vacuum leak somewhere, which the first place I would look at is the PCV valve or the PCV hose, that the hose that goes to the valve, they're notorious to crack actually, and the intake manifold gasket. We're starting to see those as well on the 2AR. I would head after carbon buildup or after all this stuff. Jose Burgos from 2007, RAV4 has negative camber and toe-in the rear, and it cannot be adjusted. Should I change my control arms for an adjustable one? Yes, but make sure you tighten it right. Inner, outer, inner, torque it to spec. Otherwise, you're on your own. It'll come loose over time, and you're going to have problems. Let's repeat that one more time. Inner, nut of the control arm. Outer, then you're going to go back to the inner. You're going to torque it to spec. And the way to torque it to spec, you're going to get a cross foot. Usually it's a 22. Cross foot. You connect your torque wrench to it. Torque it. Inner, outer, inner. I said this 5 times, and I'm sorry I'm repeating it, but this is very important. Inner, outer, inner on both sides, and you're good to go. Lewis Hain, 2012 Tundra has C11311, C13040. When pulling a trailer, how can there be a center diff lock caught in a vehicle with no center diff? I want you to leave a message, leave a comment on this video afterwards. I need to do some digging into this because we've had like 2 cases of this. Let me look into it and I will get back to you. But please leave a comment in this video or any other videos. Just relist the codes and I will get back to you on this one, because this one is going to need a little bit of digging around to find what were the notes on what we found with this one. Andrew Bivet, I got a 2008 Lexus i250 walnut blasted at 124,000 miles to get rid of the carbon buildup. It wasn't too bad, but I wonder if seafoaming it is better. Probably would have been cheaper too. No. I think you did the right thing. Let's clarify one thing. Seafoam and top engine cleaner and all this good stuff, it works as a preventative. It does not work as a solution. Once you have extreme carbon buildup, it's there, it's caked on. You're going to take a grinder, which is essentially what the walnut blasting is. It's a grinder. It's a mechanical removal of the carbon buildup. It will take so much to remove it that you're there just blasting at it. It's not going to come off right away. And some of the videos you watch on YouTube of guys just, oh yeah, I sprayed it a little bit with a little pick and I got everything out. That's not always the case. Sometimes the guys will just, for the sake of doing the video, they'll just be like, oh yeah, I cleaned it a little bit off camera. They've probably been there for 4 hours grinding at this thing, but they're not going to tell you that because they need to keep their video going. Folks, carbon buildup that is built up and caked on sometimes will take a grinder to get it off. Like literally, I my arm still hurt from the last one I did. It was a 16 camera. I told you we're going to see it in the video pretty soon. I took those valves to a grinder and they barely came off. That's how much carbon was on there. It was ridiculous, the amount of carbon. So carbon does not come off easy. You did the right thing. Seafoam would have never even touched it at that point. If it was not bad, maybe, but if it's there, the idea is prevention. Once it barely starts building up, you're cleaning it. If not, you're just wasting your money on seafoam, honestly, if it's already caked on and it ain't gonna come off easy. Dual Domasig 17 Lexus RC350 doing a transmission fluid at 40,000 miles. Do I need to bring the transmission pan down, replace the filter? Is it helpful to do 2-time changes at least to get all the old fluid out? You do not. As long as you're replacing, which at your miles, you're doing it a little bit earlier, you can actually go to 60,000 miles if you'd like. As long as you replace the fluid on time, you don't need to worry about the filter. And as far as doing it twice, I don't recommend it. That's up to you. It's your car, but I would do it once every 60,000 miles. Call it a day. You will have this transmission for a very long time without issues. Okay, Jackie Morales. Recently removed my rack and pinion, and now I have new one. I'm having a hard time figuring out how to make sure the pinion is where it needs to be, as it doesn't line up with the whole with line. Honestly, this is just trial and error. You're gonna first bolt on the rack and pinion on the subframe. Don't have it loose and you're trying to move the line. The line on that one, if you did not list what model it is, I would have gave you specific information. But you got to be very careful with starting the line. You want to start the bottom one. Usually most of these nuts will have there's a longer nut at the bottom than the top. The top will have a shorter one. The idea of that is the shorter one, you'll be able to get to the longer one underneath it and tighten them. Try to start them both first. Don't just tighten the one and then you can't move the line. And there are usually 2 other areas where that power steering line hooks up to the rack. Do not connect these until you start your line. Do not cross thread your line. Do not cross thread your line. You're going to be sorry, and things are going to get expensive. However, there's one thing I will warn you about with the rack and pinions, and we've seen this a lot. This is an aftermarket one or a remanufactured one, wherever the case may be. Some of them will actually have shipping damage to their threads or just excessive paint. Usually the reman ones, they'll go make them all nice and pretty. They'll get a little heavy-handed where these threads go. You'll never be able to thread anything there if they went heavy-handed. So maybe take a little bit of a screwdriver and kind of clean it up. If possible, if you have the power steering line out of the car, take it out and thread it outside. Make sure it threads in first. That's another thing we've seen. Maybe that's why you're having a hard time. So look at these. This takes a lot of patience. Don't cross thread the line. Art Vendley, 2003 Sequoia, 290,000 miles, going 500,000 miles. All right, my brother. Any tips? Also, is the 2003 2UZ FE 4.7 non-interference? It doesn't have VVTi. All the 2UZ FEs are interference, so be careful with that one. And keep up the maintenance. Whatever you did to get this truck to 290,000 miles, keep going at it. Honestly, the goal is to get as much miles as possible without breaking your bank, because at some point it's going to become just a challenge. It's going to become counterproductive, and you're spending these gobbles and gobbles of money just to say, I have a 500,000 mile car. If the transmission goes, not worth fixing. If the engine goes, it's not worth fixing. But guess what? If the engine goes 450,000 miles or the transmission, I wouldn't be upset, and I hope you wouldn't be either. Keep up the maintenance. Remember, she's an old gal now. You're gonna have to stay on top of things. Oil changes. Every oil change, you gotta inspect everything. Is anything leaking? Is anything coming apart? Is anything loose? Things are gonna start by age falling apart at a rate that you're not gonna normally see. That's normal, but you gotta stay on top of it. Main thing here is safety. Yeah, you'll have a little leak here, a little leak there, but nothing major as long as the car is safe. Your main goal right now is safety. Get it safely to 500,000 miles, which is pretty impressive. I hope you get there without anything major. Vanessa de la Cruz, I went to get a luxury car. Should I get a 2009 Lexus GS350 or get a 2009 BMW 3 Series Coupe? Only heard of the BMW being expensive to maintain. What about BMW reliability versus Lexus? Vanessa, I will be honest with you, but also I will apologize on behalf of some of my viewers. This is the Toyota channel. When you mention the word BMW or German cars, they will not be very friendly, at least some. Here's the God honest truth. Do you like the way the BMW drives over the Lexus? If you drive both and you think they exactly drive the same, please do yourself a favor and buy the Lexus. Because the BMW is a beautiful car, but not everything that's beautiful is good. There's a lot of examples. We're not going to mention some of them. The BMW will always find a way to get you much closer to bankruptcy. That's just the way it is. They're fussy cars. They're beautiful cars to drive when they work, which is not every day for a 2009 BMW 3 Series. On the Lexus side of things, everything is good. It's a fun car to drive, but it's not extreme. It's not that next level. But what is extreme and next level is how reliable they are. If you take care of them, if the previous owner took care of them. As far as expensive to maintain, there's no comparison. A GS350, even though it's a Lexus with all the bells and whistles, it's a glorified Toyota. It's going to have the same Toyota bills, Toyota parts all over it. Things are cheap. BMW, things are not cheap. Not labor, not parts. Some of the parts you might find cheap, but the labor remains. They're not exactly put together to have the owner not spend a small fortune to maintain. So unless you absolutely love the BMW and you fully understand that this is a hobby car that is going to drain your bank account and you expect it to break every few months, you're going to be repairing something on the BMW, then buy the Lexus. You're not going to have problems. You're going to be happy and life is great. I own German cars. I'll be the truth honest, but I also understand that they are money pits. But I love the things because I want this specific car. Unless you have that understanding, do yourself a favor and go buy the Lexus. You'll enjoy it, and everybody will be very happy you did. Lexus man, how you doing, brother? I hope you're doing well. Greetings from the UK. All right, the page jumped on me again. Here we go. Back to Lexus man. So Anthony Elaine, 2007 Camry V6, 6-speed. Is a gearbox slow in general, and is there a way to make shift quicker? Not really. They're slow shifting. That's how they are. But there is also a very delayed shift where it's like mellow. As they get older, they could develop kind of a mellow shift overall. But it is generally on the slower side of things, a more kind of careful side of things. Linda, shopping for a new cheap car. I want a 2021 Toyota Yaris, but is it true there's a Mazda engine inside of it? Is it not very reliable? Linda, here's the truth, and everybody else. The Yaris IA, and if anybody international is watching, I know at least there's one Lexus man from the UK watching, and a few from Canada. I don't know if Canada is the same thing. In the US, we have a not so beautiful Yaris IA, which is essentially a Mazda 2. Mazda 2 is not sold in the US. They decided to have a little deal between Toyota and Mazda to give us the glorious Yaris IA. Folks, it's a good car. I always make fun of it. Of course, I have to. And the BRZ and the Supra, because they're not really Toyotas, but it's a good car. It's a reliable car. I think Mazda makes decent cars. But why don't we buy a Mazda from Mazda? Because here's what happens all the time. We get one of these for something stupid. Radio doesn't work. This doesn't work. And we're like, I don't know how this thing works, because we have to call, and then whoever we call have to call Mazda and get the information. And then it comes back, and then it comes back. An example of that is we had a problem with the radios rebooting and not starting. A customer, this bothered them so much that they called somebody at Mazda, a friend they knew that worked in the Mazda dealership. They had a software update. We did not have it. He went to there, they updated it, and now when you start their Yaris IA, the radio says Mazda at the startup screen, and the radio works perfectly. Then later the update came out and life's good. But do you see how that is? It's just like, I'd rather buy a Mazda from a Mazda, but otherwise it is a reliable car. Price wise, though, I don't know. I would look at a very base model Corolla if I were you, or at least a Corolla hatchback is possibly more expensive. But look at a base model Corolla. TJ Mole have had use of a 2017 RAV4 Hybrid Limited for 2 years and loved it. I would like to buy a used fourth generation RAV4 Hybrid Limited for myself. What year do you recommend or not recommend? So every time you tell me generation this, generation that, Toyota doesn't really go by generations. So I have to count the generations, believe it or not. First generation, it's the same generation that you already have. I would go with 16, 17, even 18. These are the 3 years I would go with. The previous ones are good, 13 to 15, but things improved a lot in the 16 to 18. They were great and they got even more great. I would go with the 16 to 18. To Anthony W. 2014 Toyota Camry AC 4-cylinder. Under what circumstances is the transmission software update for the shutter needed? Can you elaborate on what the update does? Yes. So for everybody else, we're talking about 2012, 2014 Camry 4-cylinder with the 6-speed U760, notorious torque converter shutter. It was the end of the world when it came out. I remember that. I owned one of these and it was shuttered. Well, what happened with these is it would engage. That was the years, or we just talked about this in the Tacoma video. That was when they had partial lockup at low speeds to improve fuel economy. But that kind of backfired because it was locking up too early and really lugging that clutch and wearing it out. Now everything shutters and overheating. So they changed the logic of things. They changed the logic of the software where it doesn't engage you so aggressively and it does things a little bit better. So we don't wear it out that quickly. But the ones that already wore out the torque converter, you had to replace it first, then do the update. And then you had all this clutch material inside the transmission. So you had to drop the pan, put 4 magnets to pick up all this debris and hold it. That was the procedure. And you're going to replace the fluid, so you really got most of it out. So that was the issue with these. But under what circumstances do you need the update? It was a campaign on the ones that were affected. Now, under the campaign, you did the software update. If there was no shuttering, life is good. You got the update. You're protected from potential future failures. But if you already have the shuttering, then you need to replace the torque converter, put the magnets in the pan, and update the software. So that's the progress of this. Yasel Vecina, sorry. 2004 Sequoia, too much transmission fluid. When should I remove or pump out, hot or cold? Doesn't really matter, but you do want to pump it out when you're at hot, so you can actually check the fluid level. That's one with if you have a dipstick. If you don't, then do it cold. I mean, either way, you could do it cold, but then you gotta wait for it to warm up to get to check it with the dipstick. So Julian Morhata, sorry if I read that wrong, I probably did. My head gasket blew on my 2003 Toyota Corolla, 340,000 miles. Isn't expensive to repair. Just get a new car at this point. I'm broke and may need a beater or something. Honestly, at this mileage, I wouldn't do major repairs. If you're going to do anything, just get a used engine. Try to get one cheap. This is not going to be cheap. Unfortunately, this is a lot of miles on this car. If anything, I would look for, if you're on a budget and you need a beater car, just buy another car, because at this miles, what if you replace the engine and the transmission goes out after a week? There's no guarantee of this. That's the problem with high mileage cars, is you invest so much money into them, but at some point it's like, if it's just maintenance, most people that get very high miles out of their car, they don't really do anything major to them. There's maintenance, leaks, this, that, but they're not replacing engines and transmissions. It becomes counterproductive. A car at 340,000 miles, you're putting a used engine in it. Well, what about the rest of the car? What about the transmission? If that goes the next day, then what? You just spend a small fortune on a car. It's not worth it. So that's what you want to keep in mind. I wouldn't fix it. I would just Sell it as is and get yourself something cheap. Well, although it's kind of hard to do these days, but try to find something not necessarily new, but used, at least with lower miles, so you can do this for a while until I hope your situation gets better and you can buy something um, dependable and newer. Conrad Hittner, 20 Camry Hybrid. When using radar cruise control, how can I tell if the wheel brakes and the brake lights are being activated to alert the following cars? Every time when your adaptive cruise control applies the brakes, it's going to automatically turn on the lights. There's no way really to know other than just looking at your brake lights. Sometimes you look in the back rear view mirror, you can see the reflection, but it will always come on unless it's coasting. That's one thing that people have mentioned. If you're coasting, if it just lets go of the gas but doesn't press the brake, it's just not going to turn on the brake lights, but they will always come on when it applies the brakes on its own. TJ Mole, if I find a 16 and 19 RAV4 being sold privately, what systems and by whom should I have it checked out before the sale? How much should that cost? If you don't have a trusted mechanic, and this is for everybody, any used car you buy, short of, I don't know, maybe a certified or something from a major dealership that is coming with an extended warranty and all these stuff with it. If you're just buying it from private, especially, or a small dealer that's not a big name dealer, have it inspected. If you don't have a trusted mechanic, take it to a Toyota dealership. Tell them I want a used car inspection. Typically, that's 1 hour of labor. They will run through the whole car, front to back, basically do a certified inspection on it, and they're going to give you a lot of stuff. There's no used car out there that needs nothing. There's always going to need something. But then you can decide, is this something I'm okay with? Like, oh, your brakes are low, your tires are low, there's a little bit of rust, there's this, there's that. That's how you can decide based on that. You can't just. I looked at a car today, and a 2006 Camry, and the thing needed a few things. It had a power steering leak, had exhaust leak, this and that, but it's still okay. But then you got to go negotiate the price accordingly. That 2006 Camry didn't work out. It was for my neighbor. I was helping him out, but uh, yeah, do get it inspected. That whatever 100, probably 100 to $150 you're gonna pay for an inspection, it's gonna have its weight in gold when you discover a lemon that some shady dealer is trying to pass on to you. Trust me, you are gonna want to inspect used cars all the time. Low Will 2008 Land Cruiser vibrations are intermittent. Dealer says cup tires, but they have about 7,000 miles. Is it possible? Toyo Open Country AT3. So intermittent vibrations are interesting because it could be something related to the tires. The cup tires, were they rotated? Were they driven at high speeds, excessive high speed, excessive load, excessive towing? Otherwise, they might just be defective tires. And unfortunately, you're going to have to take that fight with the manufacturer of the tire. It's tough, it's difficult, but that's the unfortunate thing with buying new cars with um, sorry folks, I'm trying to look at this. Mrs. Carr Kiernut is the sheriff in town. She just told me about something. uh, you're going to have to get those tires warranted through the manufacturers, not through Toyota, unfortunately. So you also, before you do that, before you fight this fight with the tires, you're going to want to swap a different set of tires. When we talk to your dealership, have them swap a different set of rims and tires from another car that is compatible, same size. Make sure that your vibrations go away. They're an intermittent, so this is going to be interesting and difficult, but unfortunately with tires, they don't the installer doesn't really have much. You're going to have to take this through them. Actually, just noticed, I thought this was a newer car, I'm sorry, 2008 Land Cruiser. You're going to want to take it to the dealer. They need to do something about it because this could potentially be a problem with the tire. So Wolfie Man 66544, looking at this, Mrs. Karkian is yelling at me that I skipped a question, so let's go over it. 3 hour drive too much for a new Tacoma break-in. So it's not, as long as this, by the way, we're talking about a brand new car driving 3 hours from when you took delivery of it. It's not a long drive. It's not about how long you run that engine. Actually, new engines love to run so they can break in and be done with it. But take it easy on your drive. Avoid excessive speeds. Avoiding. I see people buy new cars. Where I work is right next to the delivery area. And I see people. They get out of the delivery area. They stand there, especially. Now I'll say this. Sorry, Tacoma owners. For some reason, always is the case. They get there, TRD Pro, as soon as they have space, they just stomp on the throttle, and I hear wheel squeal and everything. It's like, are you serious? You just paid a small fortune for this thing. It's not broken in, has very. Even if you don't know about braking, who drives a brand new car very hard? You haven't even had a minute to adjust the mirrors yet, but they always do. I don't know why. Sorry, nothing against Tacoma owners, but it always seems like a Tacoma and always a TRD Pro on top of it. Worse. So take it easy on your drive. Keep your speeds down. Don't avoid hard acceleration. Avoid constant cruise control locked at its constant speed. Try to always vary. You're driving, let's say 65, bring it down to 55, then go to 65 every a little bit. I know it's inconvenience, but that's if you want to keep this truck for a very long time and have no issues caused by this rough break-in. That's the recommendation for the manufacturer. So, Logan Miller, my father's brand new Camry, got a dead battery a month after purchase. Dealership did a software update to stop module from draining the battery. How common is this issue? Extremely common. Common enough where so many people are complaining about it. It's like Toyota is telling them, yes, we have a fix for it, but if you would just come in so we can do the fix, please. This will affect your Camry and RAV4 and a few other models, not as common, but the Camry and RAV4, and mainly around 2020. So some of the 19s bleed into it, some of the 21s bleed into it, but mainly the 20 model year. Please, if you have batteries draining out of a blue, there is a software update for the data communications module, which is basically your SOS button and all that nice safety system that 99.995% of people never use. That's what's draining your battery. Take it in. The procedure is just a simple software update. Doesn't take long. Actually, it takes about 35 minutes to do. But get that updated, and the battery will get tested. If the battery got beat up so many times with discharge, sometimes they'll fail, and they'll just put a new battery under warranty. Life's good. If you're out of warranty and you're having this problem, call Toyota. See what they can help you, especially if you need a battery. Some of these batteries get pretty expensive, like the Camry hybrid one. NICAD, when should I change out my transfer case and rear differential fluid of my 2008 Highlander? Manual says 40,000 miles when towing. Would that mean 50,000 miles under normal load? Actually, I recommend you replace them every 30,000 miles. And that doesn't come from the manual, that comes from experience. Around 30,000 miles, especially the first replacement, is the most important one. I think at this year, you're a little bit past that. But for everybody else, so every 30,000 miles, between 30 to 50. Let's put that range. 30 is when I personally would do it. You can go up to 50, but at 50, things might look a little on the dirtier side and grittier side. Every 30,000 miles, plan to do it, then life's good. Seagull, is it true that Lexus is basically a Toyota with leather and better insulation? Thinking about getting one, they're very luxurious. Yes. Actually, a video is coming up on that, not very soon, but it's a video idea at this point. What is the difference between Lexus and Toyota? Leather seats, yes. Better insulation, yes. But the main thing that people don't notice is Lexus is the stepping stone for Toyota. Toyota, which owns both Lexus and Toyota, they will test new products, new technology, new things on the Lexus side, where customers are more forgiving because it just doesn't make sense initially when you listen to this, because customers pay more for these cars that have a lot more test things in them. It doesn't work like that, but because so many people lease Lexuses as well, and they buy them for 5 years and they throw them, and they don't keep them for 15 years like a lot of Toyota owners do. So they want to test things there, new technology, new stuff, and you're going to notice Lexus is always ahead of Toyota. And that's not because, oh, this is a luxury brand. They're testing that stuff there before they release it for Toyota side. But otherwise, they're very similar. And more on that when we get to that video. Okay, I can't read the name. Mahramli Edhem. I read it wrong, but that's okay. I'm sorry. Hello from Finland. That might have to do with it. I apologize. Just bought a 200,000 kilometer Prius. Engine vibrates when turning off, and idle check takes longer. Also, trunk leaks already sealed, but so the first thing with the vibrations, you're gonna want to check the try things. First, throttle body. Second, your EGR. Third, head gaskets. I'm sorry to say the word head gasket, but that's the last thing. I hope your EGR or your throttle body cleaning will resolve that. But this is the order of things I would want you to check and look into. Anthony Perazzo, Pedal Commander. What do you think of my 2021 Tacoma? For my Tacoma, Pedal Commander. So, folks, for those who are not familiar with Pedal Commander it's a little nifty device that takes away that lag or slow acceleration when you press the gas on most Toyotas. It just makes it rapid or immediate. It works because it really doesn't do anything other than manipulate the signal from the throttle pedal. That's all it does. So they do that slow acceleration for emissions, for pollution, basically. Cars will produce very high amount of pollutants when they are at high load. And possibly one of the highest loads on any car is making the car from a stationary position to a moving, to in motion. Once the car is in motion, things are easier. You notice when you push a car, it is super hard to get the car rolling, but once it starts rolling, it's easier to push and continue to push. So that's the same concept. That's why they make that throttle kind of smooth into takeoff, and then it takes off. All the Pedal Commander says, nah, forget that. We're just going to pedal it to the metal and let's go. So they're safe. They don't cause any issues. Well, higher pollution, but I think nobody will notice that. Shaji Autos. I'm having a hard time getting my hands on a 2021 Tundra Crewmax 4-wheel drive limited with the TRD package. I'm worried about the reliability of the 2022 Tundra engine. What are your thoughts? Using for towing. So honestly, it's going to be very difficult to get your hands on a 2021 Tundra now with the production being cut and new model coming out. This is kind of the times we live in these today. But if you're going to go for a 22 model, wait a little bit. Don't just jump right on it and go for it. Wait for at least 6 months. Let them figure out the little stuff. I doubt there are going to be big stuff, but if there's anything, it's usually resolved within the first 6 months. And folks, for everybody, when you buy a brand new model that just came out, wait 6 months. Some people say, "Oh, I'll wait 3 years." 6 months is more realistic, honestly. I wouldn't worry about buying 6 months. If you want the ultimate version of things where every design things is fixed, like the radio software got better, everything else got better, then buy the last model year, like the 2021 Tundra. But guess what? Not everything will be fixed. Some things will remain no matter what. Like the cam towers, they still leak here and there. That's just the way it is with the Tundra. But if you're going to wait for the new model, I would wait 6 months. All right, folks, we're going to take a few more questions and we're going to wrap it up for today's live stream. Jeff Anderson, rear window on 2016 4Runner won't activate with turning of the key. You're going to want to first check the switch on the key. Behind that key, there's actually a switch. So you're going to want to see if that switch, usually they get corroded, depends, where you live and what area you're in. You're going to check if that switch is corroded. Also make sure, and this is not very common, but possible, if the latch is bad and it's not picking up the door is closed. You're going to need a basic diagnosis with a scan tool to get that. But the first thing I would look at is that switch. Is it working? Because that's one that would do it. So Ken Canoza, should a PCV valve be changed on a 2014 RAV4? Yes, but every spark plug replacement at 120,000 miles is good. That's what I'd say. So we're gonna take one more question, and then we're kind of gonna go around and take the last one. So David Lucas, I have a 2007 Avalon. I got it from my uncle. It has 55,000 miles. Should I change trans fluid? Yes, at this age, I would definitely do a drain and fill and call it a day. So I don't want to leave anybody hanging. Let's take a few more questions until we get to. Let's take 3 more questions. Trying to get more answers for you guys. Where were we at? How dare you? Says my 1997 Forerunner idles rough for about 30 seconds every morning. Why is that? Many things. One of them could be a small vacuum leak, as much as a head gasket leak. I don't wanna go into scaring you into that, but um, you're gonna want to check your idle air control, because that kicks up the idle when you're in the morning. This is the 97 Forerunner, so you're gonna want to check into that. Rob Molero, what is the purpose of a bypass water hose of my 2010 1.8 Matrix? A bypass water hose. So when your thermostat is closed, that coolant needs to go somewhere to circulate. So that's your bypass hose. Let's take 3 more questions. I'll take them randomly through the chat and we'll call it a day. Do you recommend flushing my 1.5 liter engine Scion XB with EMS oil or liquid moly? She has 276,000 miles. It's a 2.4 liter engine if you're a Scion XB in the United States. Oh, you're talking about an old one. I do apologize. That's an old Scion XB. I think liquid moly might be a little bit on the better side, but honestly, they all do similar. I don't really have much experience with EMS oil flush, but they all should work as long as the oil changes are done on time. Let's take 2 more questions. JR Mendoza, I have a 2021 SR V6 Tacoma. Are the stock tires good enough to get me through the Northeast winter? Yes, they are. That truck is, I hope it is 4-wheel drive. You're going to need that 4-wheel drive. Otherwise, it's going to get a little tricky. You don't really need winter tires with trucks, folks. That's the thing about the Tacomas. They're really good in the snow. Last question, Martin. Actually, this is a question that came through the super chat. Martin Quintana, what brand of differential oil should I use on my 2018 Tacoma? Would I use 75, 85, 75, 90? You can use either. I would use Mobil 1. We've had good success with Mobil 1, and we'll call it a day. All right, folks. So let's take the last question here. So Mrs. Kirnat is yelling at me again. There's a question that I did not answer that I was supposed to. Oh, here we go. How and where can I update my maps for my 2019 Toyota 4Runner? I got the micro USB, but it's 2018 maps. That's a very good question. Sorry, I said we're going to take a last question multiple times. Love you guys too much. I got to help. We'll take one last question after that, which will be the last one. So, map updates. I personally don't want to get them, and I don't encourage you to get them. They're just horrible. In all honesty, they're always behind. You go buy the newest one, it's behind. It's behind by a lot. That's the truth. Unfortunately, you're going to buy an update in 2019 and actually be a 2018 update. That's the norm with these updates. They're just not dependable. That's how it is with these updates. Personally, I wouldn't really update the maps anymore. Just use your phone, use a window. I don't know why Toyota doesn't, or actually all manufacturers will charge you a small fortune to update that little map. And it's a horrible GPS, let's say the truth here, it doesn't really work very well. Then you update it. It's a small fortune to update it, and it's an old update. That's I personally would just consider using your phone or window. Most of the window type GPSs come with free updates. I don't know why a 30, 40, $50,000 car can't do that. But yeah, that is the norm with the updates that they're behind. So, showstopper. I got a 2010 Nissan Altima Hybrid. I'm thinking about upgrading to a Toyota Highlander. Should I get a 21 or wait for a 22? Honestly, at this point, we're almost at the end of the year. I would wait for a 22 because you're gonna buy a 21 and then you're gonna say, yeah, I own this year's car for 3 months, and then that, yeah, it's a 1 year old car according to everybody else. So always when you're at the end of the year, buy the newer model year. Don't just buy the previous, unless, which is in these current times that doesn't really work, but unless you're getting a very good deal, which you should. If you're buying a 2021 toward the end of 21, you should always get a better deal. Don't care chip shortage or not, folks. Once more, and we're gonna wrap up here. Let me take the last question. I'll tell you this very important thing. Hopefully I won't forget like last time. So last is always first. Let's take the last question. Dub K just bought a 2012 Scion TC manual with 105,000 miles. No knowledge of the service history. Should I change the manual transmission fluid or leave it? Is it risky changing the automatic transmission? Just go ahead and change the fluid. Everything will be good. There's no risk with a manual transmission, unlike an automatic. Just get it replaced, and life's good, and you should not have any issues. Folks, let's talk about a few things. Today, I mentioned this briefly in the live stream, but I love you guys too much. You got to hear this. I went to help a neighbor. He's looking for a second car, kind of a car to get around town and whatnot. Nothing long-term or dependable. Not dependable, but nothing where we're going to take a cross-country trip with. We went to look at this 2006 Camry. Lean underneath the car, it has leaks galore, of course. It's 2006 Camry with like 150,000 miles. Very nice car, in good shape. Looks few owners, no accidents, blah blah. I just hear the salesman doing this. Like, yeah, would you just shut up so I can look at the car, please? Well, look at the car. It has a few leaks, exhaust leak, suspension in the back's kind of falling apart. Front suspension is all aftermarket. It's like, yeah, let's drive it and see. Has winter tires, and we're in the middle of summer. Go drive it, it howls, needs an alignment, makes noise in the back, CD changer doesn't work, you know how it is, the norm with a 15-year-old car. Well, they want $6,000 for it, which in my book, they're completely out of their mind. I flat out told my neighbor, I'm like, we're not paying more than $4,000. I don't care, chip shortage, used car shortage or not, you're not getting robbed in my watch. So the moral of that story is, I go to the salesman and tell him, look, this is how I negotiate for cars, by the way, if you're interested to know that. I will not go haggle. Oh, but there's a little scratch here. It's a 15-year-old car. I know the condition of the car. We're just going to haggle on the price. I'm not going to start saying, oh, but this is broken. We got to lower the price. Because then that's how salesmen get upset and they just stop listening and walk away. I went to him and told him this is a 15-year-old car. It has a lot of issues, of course. If it's perfect, I'll go pay 30,000 miles, get a brand new one. But the price is up there. What's the deal? What's the best price? You know what he told me? 6,000. I'm like, yeah, that's the asking price. Well, can't go a penny less. I'm like, you know what? Good luck with the sale. But unfortunately, as I walk out of the dealership, sadness entered my heart is that someone is going to pay $6,000 for this car that needs work. Please don't be that person. Please don't be that person. I love you guys too much. I want you to make wise choices. Unless you're in a cringe, today is not the time to be buying used cars. New cars, maybe, but do not buy used cars and overpay for them. Just like, please don't buy a house and overpay for it unless you really have to. It's not a wise investment. A car is never an investment. Worse when you overpay for it. When you're buying a new car, never pay over MSRP. The worst case scenario is that you're paying MSRP. Never pay a penny over MSRP. No car in the world, no matter how exclusive it is worth more than what it's worth. And MSRP is how much the new cars are worth. It's plain and simple. You finance a car that is MSRP is 30,000 and you paid 35 for it for whatever reason, and you get in an accident after 2 days. Guess what? The insurance company will tell you this car's MSRP is $30,000. Well, I paid 35. That sucks to be you. That's what they're going to tell you. Be very careful, please. And I'm reading someone says my FJ Cruiser is an investment. Yes, certain cars are, but most average, readily available cars are not. You buy a car because you need it. It's going to depreciate. Toyotas hold their value and they don't depreciate as much as some other people. I wish I can flash signals in the live stream, but please don't overpay for cars. It's not worth it. Trust me. The car that I am buying, it's just under MSRP because I'm an employee, but I will never pay over MSRP for any car, no matter how much I want it. It's just not worth it. Please don't do that. And my neighbor kind of bummed down initially. I'm like, you didn't get robbed. If you would have went to that dealership, because he drove the car, he's like, man, this is so smooth and quiet. Of course, 2006 Camry is like the smoothest thing ever. But you gotta be careful with these prices and used cars. And pretty soon, I'll give you a sneak peek of a few videos that are coming up. One of them is oil analysis. I've been doing some oil analysis, so you will see my opinion, the truth about oil analysis. And we're going to wrap up the Tacoma series. There's 2 more videos. I hope you guys are enjoying that. That was actually very difficult to film it because the Tacoma is enormous. That's the word for it. I picked probably the worst Tacoma to film with. It's a double cab with the longest bed. Barely fits in the garage, and it was kind of a nightmare to walk around and do everything. But yeah, the Tacoma series is ongoing. Then we have another video coming in from inside the dealership. We have a certified used car and how they're inspected. I think that will be, I hope, helpful for you guys when you're out shopping for these overpriced cars. God, some of these cars are so overpriced. It's ridiculous. Today I saw another one. I told him I'm not going to see that. 2005 Corolla with 150,000 miles. They want $7,000 for it. Yeah, no. 2005 Corolla is a brilliant $4,000 car on a good day. Not $7,000. Never going to happen. Guys, thank you so much for hearing me ramble a little bit. I hope you learned something new from this live stream. We are having a live stream next Saturday at 7 p.m. Central Time. As always, if I didn't get to any of your questions, leave a comment below on this video or any of the other videos. And I hope you guys are enjoying the content and everything. Right now, I got to go inside and get yelled at a little bit more by Mrs. Carcarnot. That's a joke. She's awesome. She's also have huge love and respect for you guys. She just doesn't want me to miss some of the bigger questions that people are actually paying, which I really appreciate for. Having said that, folks, thank you so much for watching the live stream. And until the next live stream, guys, may the Lord bless you and keep you. You guys have yourself a wonderful night.